Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. It's me, Steven. I am so sorry I have not filmed anything for a matter of weeks, almost a month actually. But I just been in a real funk and not in a real great mood frequently, unless I'm cuddling with my cats. I just really haven't had much energy. And my layovers, while I've had nice long layovers, the weather has been crappy every time. So I haven't done anything on my layovers either. So I'm sorry I haven't filmed anything. But today is June 14th, 2019, and bidding for July just opened up on the 12th. And I figured I should get a bid sheet started and submitted so that I don't forget to submit a bid, because bidding closes, I think, on is it the 15th or the 17th? I forgot. And I figured, I'd probably give you guys a tour of the website that we use in my company, and a couple other companies use the same website. I don't know if the pages look the same. So if you're not with my airline and you work for, JetBlue or somebody else, if you use FLICA and yours doesn't look like this, I'd love to know the differences. So this is the website we use to make our bid sheet and submit our bids for the next month. The website FLICA we also use to submit bids for vacation once a year. It's where we would go to pick up a trip in open time or on the trade board. It's a pretty important website for us, and you're not really given any direction in training as to how to maneuver your way around it. You really got to be lucky enough to have either a new hire mentor, which I have applied to be a new hire mentor. I just haven't heard back from the union yet. Or if you just stumble upon someone who's really helpful in the crew room. So this is FLICA. Oh, if you were going to the website and you work for my airline, you'd log in with your information. You would go to a page, look on the left-hand side, and you're going to see a line that says monthly flight attendant bid. Below that, there'll be something that says submit bids. And you want to click on that. This screen pops up. There is a section you can't see over here on the left, which is all of my coworkers' names and our number in seniority in base. I'm sure my coworkers don't want you to see that. Let's see. Oh, what will happen is one window will pop up right in the middle here that says that you have to go into this thing called additional bid options, which is on the upper right-hand side of the screen here. So you would click on that. And there's a number of things that are required that you actually select. So let's go to the first one, which is, do you want to waive your 24/7 in order to maintain schedule integrity? As a flight attendant, we're only allowed to be worked up to 6 days in a row, or we can only work 6 days in a row willingly. We have to have that 7th day off in a row. We can't work 7 days in a row. So you can select, do you want to waive that 24/7 or no? If you select no, and you're on reserve, for example, and you have a 6-day block of reserves and you're used for those 6 days, they would have to have you, by our contract, I believe they'd have to have you back at your base by midnight that night of the 6th day. If you select yes, then they can, instead of needing to have you at the base by midnight at the end of the 6th day, they could incorporate a long layover, a 24-hour layover, for example, in your pairing, so that you would have that rest period for the course of that's required within those 7 days. So you technically could have probably 8, 9, 10 or more days in a row scheduled to work, or with you if you stacked trips. But as long as you had a 24-hour layover within that period sometime, breaking up those days. So I always select yes. It's just always something I do. It says I haven't changed my selection, so I'm just going to have to X out of these things. So I'll X out of that. Waive 33.7. 33.7. I believe that if you waive this, crew scheduling can schedule you 33 hours or more in the course of a 7-day period. I always select yes. I want to make sure crew scheduling can use me as often as possible, or that my lines reflect the fact that I could be able to work as much as possible. If I select no, they just can't work me that much, I guess. I don't know the exact ins and outs, but that's my general understanding of waiving a 33.7. I always just waive it. I'll X out of that. Ready reserve. Right here, if awarded a reserve line, do you want ready reserve assignments? Exemption is limited and awarded by seniority. If you are a super junior and you're on reserve and you're junior in the reserve, you have a higher employee number. You are going to sit ready reserve. It's just going to be the fact of super junior life. If you select yes, in this case, no matter if you're on reserve, they're going to put you on ready reserve, which is airport standby, pretty darn often. You're going to get to know that airport really intimately. If you select no, and you are, appropriate seniority, you may not see airport standby or ready reserve very often. And if you're, I believe, in the top 20% of my airline's reserves on a base, I believe you are exempt from sitting ready reserve. So you no longer have to sit ready reserve. If you become ready exempt, that's usually a knock on the door of you getting a line. Because that's, for me, I was ready reserve 1 month in February of last year, and then in March I got a line. So typically, once you hit ready reserve, you're right on the cusp typically of getting a line. So it's good news. But I always select no because I don't want to sit ready reserve. Who would want to sit ready reserve? Someone who maybe lives right near the airport, who maybe would rather sit airport ready for 5 hours, being credited for 4 hours. We're paid for 4 hours of that. Or the greater, if we're sent out on a trip, we would get paid for the hours we sat or the hours credited for the trip for that day. If you live near the airport and you want to just be at the airport for 5 hours versus be available for the 10 hours of our notification period, and we have 3 of those, airport reserve might be nice. I never wanted it. I only sat airport reserve 3 times. So I would always select no. That does not say that you're never going to get it. And a relief line. I'll touch on what a relief line is. I would say yes, only because I would take one. I wouldn't say no to a relief line, but it would not be my preference for a line. So once we've finished all these things, we can move on to actually looking at our lines. Now, first off, I'll show you how to navigate through this, and it's not like rocket science right here. So, but it took someone pointing out where to go for everything. So up on the top left-hand side, you'll see me moving through these little buttons on the top. This button and this button are to move from first page, where I am now, to the last page of the reserve of the bid package. So go back to the first page. This button is to move. You'll see here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I go to this button, which it's going to go 1 page forward, so now I have 6 through 10. Another time, 11 through 15. And if I use this button, or that one, I'll move back or forth 1 line. So if you want to just, really just move through 1 line at a time, which would be exhausting, you could do that too. So that is how to move through. I've never even used this button. Refresh current page. Okay. And you can also search by line right over here. This is page 1 of 58 right here. All right. So what else are we seeing on this page? Well, right below it, each of these, if you don't know what a line is, this is a line, number 1. Now, because I know that this is a chaser pairing that's just doing a turn, I think I can open this up, this trip, and show you it. Other lines other trips I won't, because our hotel information is included in some of those things that you would see if you open it. So a trip that starts with an L7 means it's based in Las Vegas. Chicago would be a C, for example. If you open that up, they're going to see the information for that trip. Now, if you look along the left-hand side, this line is completely made up of the same trip. Except for down here at the very bottom, I just realized it's all 7002. So this trip that makes up a majority of the line, right here, the report time for the crew room is at 10:31 a.m. local time. That's the L. Basically, it's Monday the 1st. They fly flight 193 to Seattle from Las Vegas. It departs at 11:31, arrives at 14:12, which is 2:12. It's blocked at 2 hours and 41 minutes. Ground time is 1 hour and 3 minutes. And you're flying on a 321. That's what the equipment is. And equipment, when you're a flight attendant, means the aircraft. Usually, if someone says, oh, what equipment are you on? It's going to be what's the model of the plane. And on the bottom, it says crew. If this were a schedule and someone were looking at their schedule, they would see the two names of the flight attendants that were on this chaser pairing. And a chaser pairing, this is a 321 aircraft that this is for, requires 5 flight attendants. 3 of them are going to be on the base pairing, and then there'll be 2 chasers that will not be with the same crew all the time. They will fly together for the whole trip, but they'll typically change crews. Maybe not on a day like this, not on a turn possibly, but typically they would. And typically you would see, if there was a layover, you'd see over here the length of time that layover was going to be, and the hotel information would be under there as well. Here you'll see time away from base, TAFB, is 7 hours and 39 minutes. And over here you'll see a credit of 5:06. It's also blocked at 5:06, so super easy. Nice. Now, someone who would take this line, someone who would like this line, maybe someone like myself now, who I really like to be home because I have these cats I'm in love with. I wouldn't mind having a work day start at a rational hour, end at a rational hour, and be home every night, knowing that I have plenty of days off during the week, right? So this might be something I bid for. In fact, I'll put that on my bid package just to show you what this looks like. And if you look over here to the right, see, I just selected that line as my first choice. Now, this is just an example on how I would maneuver through the website. This will not be my first choice, but it wouldn't be a bad line for me. But it shows up over here on my bid sheet, and it shows up right there. So when crew scheduling looks at this, for example, I will add all of these. Not that I would want all these as my selections, but they would show up in the order that I wanted them to. And crew scheduling would look at these, and when my seniority came up in their rotation of awarding lines, they would give me my choice in order of seniority. There have been months where I got my first choice, which is very nice. This month I got my 10th choice, which, with my seniority is still a really fantastic thing. So you would just move along and find the lines that you like, and you would build your bid packet, your bid sheet. If, for example, you find a line that, boy, this line 11 right here, boy, I love that line. I want to have a long layover in Chicago, in Baltimore, and whatever. Boy, I really like that line. I want that as my first choice. I could go over here to my bid package. I could hit that number 1 again. It moves all these things down, and I could then just type in 11 and enter. And now line 11 is my first choice. Everything else has moved down. You can also delete from that, but you can move things around your sheet. So when you put them over here, they're not stuck there. You can also add, insert a line, which I know you can do. Whatever. You can move stuff up, you can move stuff down. What else do I want to show you? Oh, all right. So now because you've decided, gee, I don't really like anything. I found lines down the road I would prefer. You can go up here and click clear bids, hit OK, and your bid sheet is now empty again. So now what would I typically do when I'm going through? If I want to sort these bids, we have, 58 pages of bids. If I want to go through there and make it easier for me to find things I want or I prefer, I can go in over here and look for the word sort, click on sort. Now, take your time. I'm not going to go through everything here. Take your time and explore this. But select days, right? Consecutive days off. If I want, for example, I would like at least 6 days off in a row, most to least. I'm going to hit apply. All right. So this is my hope, is to find at least 6 lines that have 6 days off in a row. So now it has sorted according to that selection. See, most to least, right? So the most, of course, would be the relief line, because these haven't been built yet. I'll tell you about those in a minute. But I'll move through and you'll notice this has 6 days, more than 6 days, way more than 6 days. In fact, it has 11 days off in a row, 10 days off in a row. These all have 10 days off in a row. So 10 days, look at that. These all have 10 days off in a row. I might do that. 8 days off in a row and down to 6 days off in a row. But all of these lines, that's a lot. Look. All of those lines had 6 days off in a row. Now you'll notice suddenly there's a pink line here and they say 5. And that's telling me that I am no longer in a series of lines that have all of my requirements in my preferences. So these lines don't have 6 days off in a row, but they have 5 days off in a row. And I might bid for anything else that has 6 days off in a row or more. Or I might say, I like this line. It only has 5 days off in a row, but I still like it a lot. So I'll choose that. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back into sorted. I'll hit delete. I'm going to go into specific days off. This is something I use fairly often. And when I do that, a little calendar pops up. I'm not going to move it over so you can see some of the days, because some people's names are underneath that calendar I don't want you to see. But say I had a wedding coming up that was it was a Friday wedding. I wanted to be in Boston on the 12th. Can you see where I just selected 12? Because it's in Boston, I live in Las Vegas. I want to give myself the day of the 11th to travel there, so I have plenty of time in case it's a busy time of year. It's summertime, it might be busy. I might have a hard time getting a flight there. And I'm also going to select the 13th, so I have plenty of time to get back to Las Vegas for work on the 14th, right? So I want the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th off. I'm going to hit apply. I'm going to hit apply. And I'm going to hit apply. But you'll see this is all the days I selected off are 11, 12, 13. You can do whatever you want. I'll hit apply. Now, once again, these are reorganized so that you'll notice I have the 11th, 12th, and 13th off. And it has the number 3 up there across that whole line, showing you that the 3 days I wanted are all there. And again, I'm using that page forward button. Again, all the days I requested off, plus more, maybe. Those are nice. I like those lines. Those are all still off. Now I'll keep going until I see pink up on top. And it's here where those lines no longer have those days off I really want. So I know not to bother selecting those, but I can select my lines that would work from those days where they're all available. And there's quite a few. So that is days. And there's so, see, I'm going to hit delete here. There's so many choices here, you know, days off, days on, pattern bid. So if you want to work 4 days, 3 days off, 4 days, 3 days off, you could do that. Weekends off. Go over to pairings, back-to-back pairings, commutable pairings, deadheads, layover cities. Say I want to have a layover in Atlanta because I still have stuff in my old apartment that I'd like to move. And I want to go have a nice long layover in Atlanta. I'm going to hit, or I can add as many cities as I want, most to least. See? Apply. Apply. It's going to reorganize those so that, and you'll look across the top, it's going to see the number 4 and 3. So here I will have 4 layovers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got like there's 4 trips that have 2 layovers at a time in Atlanta. Same thing here. So I can go through these lines and keep going until I find and look at the lines that have good long layovers in Atlanta. So you can really sort and make searching through these pairings a little bit easier. But you know, there's so many things here that it can be a little overwhelming. Time away from base. You know, if you want to work as much as possible, you want to be away from base as much as possible because you want to accumulate your per diem. You can do that. If you go into lines, you can go for high credit block hours or low credit if you don't want to work a lot. Earliest departure times, number of pairings. Excuse me. Layover times, everything. So you can go in here and using 1, 2, 3 multiple choices. In fact, let's do this. So we'll do consecutive days off. We want at least 2, whatever. We want layover cities. I want Atlanta, and I will do specific days off. I want the 31st, 30th, and the 29th off. Those are my preferences. I can change their order of importance into which one is the most important for me. I can also delete them. And if I hit apply, it's going to take all of those preferences and order my lines in terms of those preferences. So there's tons and tons of ways to use the sort button. So I'm going to just delete these so that when I do start building my line, I don't have things set up that way. So now it's all going to be reset back to its original thing. So, boy, okay. So let's see. Let's pretend I have a whole bunch of lines in my bid sheet. All right. Can I go backtrack? I'm going to backtrack. Clear bids. Okay. So we're going to go back. I'm sorry. I know I'm all over the place. This is where I really should be editing. Say I had consecutive days off. All right. In terms of least to most. Apply. Now, if you really want to be lazy about this, or if you just don't think you have a chance in heck for getting a line, go over here and see where it says add sorted lines up in the on the right hand side here. Add sorted lines. It's going to add every line, including relief lines and reserves, in order of which line had the most days off. So I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to hit this so it doesn't ask me to do this again. I'm going to delete relief lines. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to delete any reserves because I don't want to be on reserve. right? So I would just continue to delete reserves, and let's pretend I did. And so I would have in order of the consecutive days off from most to least every line in here. So if my only concern was the number of consecutive days off or other things, I also wanted Atlanta layovers. I also wanted, the 30th and 31st off. I could have all those preferences set up and then hit add sorted lines, and everything I put in that sorted button earlier would be put in order of what was there. And then hands off the wheel, I get what I get. And so that can be a really useful button, add sorted lines. And then once you that's a lot of lines. Once you have finished that, if you really think that you're not going to get, that's when I would personally hit relief. Click on relief, then any relief line. If you weren't senior enough to get any of those lines, but you weren't senior enough to get a relief line, you would get any relief line. And then if you were really questioning whether or not you were going to even get a relief line, you can go ahead and I'm going to edit this out. You could go and say you don't think you're going to get a line at all. Go to I would personally, this is just what I would do. I would go, it looks like, all right, pretend I had deleted all these reserves. I would go back and I would go back to reserve B, which was my preference. Reserve B in my airline is signified by R2. And I would go in and then hit any R2. Or I'd go in terms of any R2 with the days off I wanted. There's just so many ways to go about this. You'll find your own way of developing a strategy, but you'll see that now all the lines that you put in there are in order. You have some reserve lines, relief lines, and I could click submit right now, right here. And then I would have a choice to email myself, and always email yourself your bid package just in case something gets messed up. So you can email yourself the bids that you submitted. And then on the any is if I had put all the lines up there, they're all in there. But if I only submitted 50 lines, I could then insert any and just get, all right, whatever. I would be able to get, put any line in there. Blah, blah, blah. I could talk for hours and hours, clearly. But I really think that this would have been an enormously helpful video for me if I were brand new, when I were brand new bidding for a line, or looking at making sense as to what does this screen mean? How do you sort lines? What does that mean? Oh, and I'll say there is a basic mode. If you're overwhelmed by the advanced mode, you could also just, for example, this is basic mode. You could hit consecutive days off, time away from base. Oh, you can only choose one piece. So I'll do consecutive days off, most to least. See? Apply. And it's once again going to do that same thing. All right. So, do you guys have any questions? That may not have been the most smooth explanation as to what this site is, but once again, I really think I would have liked to have had someone point out, what does this mean? Where does this go? If I add this, what does it mean? So once again, I'm gonna go up here for myself just so I don't submit that by accident, and I'm gonna erase all of those bids so that I don't accidentally submit that as my bid, because that wouldn't have been very fun. So now that I've done that, I would have clicked on submit bids. I would have gotten an email to show that I have submitted it. I'm proof that it was done. Because you wouldn't want to find after bidding closed that you never submitted your bid sheet. That would be ridiculous. It would be like not turning your homework in after doing it. What else should you know? I think that would be a good start, a good heads up. So I'm going to give you permission. If you're on reserve, bid for lines. Bid for lines first. Go for it. Especially if you're like, you've been around for a while, you've been on reserve for a while. Always bid for lines because you might get that line. You might be that one guy who got lucky because someone bid reserve who's more senior than you are. And I would encourage you to explore using the advanced mode, which is right here on that sort button, to really sort of make finding your way through a very complicated system. Oh, I do have one more thing I want to point out, and that I don't think I pointed this out earlier, so I do apologize for talking a little bit longer than usual. Let me reset this to its original. All right, so I don't know if I mentioned this, so if I didn't, I apologize for saying it again. So I'll make this quick. So if you look at these lines, if you can see, these lines start with an L700, and I think I mentioned this earlier when I opened this one up. This is a chaser pairing for a 321. Now, if I move forward using that forward page button, and you'll notice there's a lot of the 321s. If I move forward, you're going to see L9s. L9, and I see this is also sort of a easy one day where there's no hotel, there's no layover, so I'll open it up. This is a pairing for a 320, which is what I have this month. I have a Chaser 320 pairing. I'm sorry, Chaser line this month. So there's only one flight attendant who is on the pairing, and that's just me this time. This is not my schedule, but if the person who gets this every day, except for the last 2 days of the month, they're going to be flying from Vegas to Portland, Portland to Vegas, Vegas to Oakland, and back to Vegas. Each day is, they're away from base 11 hours and 36 minutes. They're credited 7 hours and 28 minutes. And in this case, the block time is the same as the credit. And it's super, super easy, super simple. And then, what is this one down here, the 709004? Oh, it's pretty much the same thing. And then, on page forward, there's a lot of these 320 chaser lines. I'll move forward, and the other numbers you'll look for, excuse me, are L3 numbers. And I won't open these up because these are pairings where there are actually layovers, and the hotel information is included in what you would open up. You would see if I opened it up. But the L3 number is a basic pairing. It's a normal pairing. Every one of our aircraft has a pairing of 3 flight attendants, A, B, and C. On an A320, we're going to have a D, and on a 321, we're going to have a D and an E. The D and the E positions may travel together, and they may travel with the same crew for a portion of your pairing, but maybe not always the whole pairing. Blah, blah, blah. Does he ever stop talking? All right, so I will end this here because the video is already over 34 minutes. But once again, I really think this video would have been helpful to me when I was brand new. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them below. If your airline uses FLICA, but it's a different version, or it shows up differently, or you use it differently, feel free to leave a comment or below. I'd love to find out more about other airlines. And I will talk to you guys again very soon. I promise it will not be a month. Probably just a few days. When I get back home, I'll have you say hi to the cats. And maybe I wanted to show you guys their favorite toys for a little while too. Okay, so I will talk to you guys soon. Fly safe and take care. I'll talk to you later.